It was 40 years ago in this small plaza that John F. Kennedy was murdered. What happened in Dallas that day shook America every bit as much as Pearl Harbor and, more recently, the events of 9/11. In many ways, America never got over it.
The President's car is now turning onto Elm Street, and it will be only a matter of minutes before he arrives at the Trade Mart.
Our tradition is so contrary to this idea that you kill a president. And it just is so traumatic for the country. It's such an assault on our sense of self, on our institutions, on the United States.
On that November day, and throughout the sad weekend that followed, there was a sense of horrible loss. But there was also a sense that events were spinning out of control. A suspect, Lee Harvey Oswald, was arrested and paraded before the press.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet.
As thousands of people paid their respects to the president in Washington, Oswald was murdered on national television.
He's been shot. He's been shot.
And day by day in America, the confusion and doubt grew deeper. What really happened in Dallas on November the 22nd, 1963? What really happened here in Dealey Plaza?
The very first poll in regard to American sentiment about the assassination was conducted that weekend. And that poll indicated that 2/3 of Americans already believed in a conspiracy against John Kennedy.
They believed that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone. And 40 years later, the majority of Americans still believe in a conspiracy. For most people, the idea that a lone assassin could kill the president, a man so widely revered, that idea was simply too much to bear.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
Demandez toujours à notre pays ce qu'il fait pour nous et réfléchissons aussi à ce que nous avons à faire pour lui.
Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Oh, that looks beautiful from here. It has a stark beauty all its own. It's like much of the high desert of the United States. It's different, but it's very pretty out here.
Every precious minute of their 2.5 hours on the surface was programmed. Rock and soil samples were to be collected, photographs taken, experiments set up to catch unfiltered particles from the sun, to record moonquakes, to measure precisely by laser beam reflection the exact distance between moon and earth.
Columbia, this is Houston, AOS, over. Houston, Columbia, on the high gate, over. Roger, the EVA is progressing beautifully. They're setting up the flag now. I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the scene.
The United States, as the world knows, will never start a war. We do not want a war. We do not now expect a war. This generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression. We shall be prepared if others wish it. We shall be alert to try to stop it. But we shall also do our part to build a world of peace where the weak are safe and the strong are just. We are not helpless before that task or hopeless of its success. Confident and unafraid, we must labor on, not towards a strategy of annihilation, but towards a strategy of peace.
Terror is not a new weapon. Throughout history, it has been used by those who could not prevail either by persuasion or example. But inevitably they fail, either because men are not afraid to die for a life worth living, or because the terrorists themselves came to realize that free men cannot be frightened by threats and that aggression would meet its own response. And it is in the light of that history that every nation today should know, be he friend or foe, that the United States has both the will and the weapons to join free men in standing up to their responsibilities.